Hello everybody, thanks for joining me today. I'm going to share with you how I take care of my tomatoes and get those ready for a good harvest. So I've got tomatoes in buckets and in garden beds. I've got a good variety from the smallest to the big Better Boy brand. So what I'm going to do is show you how I kind of sit down and work each tomato plant. I go through and I snip off any branches that are really low to the ground and hanging down just to keep the pest from getting in there. I'm going to go in between the stems and snip out any new growth. You don't want a lot of extra new growth. I'm working on just getting flowers so that I get fruit. So I sit with each plant and go through and kind of pinch off and prune. And then I take some very soft string and secure the growth that's coming upward to that pole. We've had a lot of wind lately, and so I had to secure the tomato plant stalks a little earlier than usual, but I just tie them off with a soft string, and that will really help protect the stems and make them stronger. So that's what I'm doing with each tomato plant. And I don't even know how many I've planted. I've got so many. Then I'm going to take those crushed eggshells that I've been saving all this time, and I'm going to fertilize the plants really well with this crushed eggshell. That adds calcium to the soil, and your tomatoes are going to need lots of calcium or you will get blossom end rot. And blossom end rot is when the bottom of the tomato turns black, and you don't want that. And I also use this Garden Tone organic fertilizer. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit around the top with the crushed eggshell. Then I'm just going to take my spade and very gently turn the dirt and kind of get that fertilizer and eggshells down in the soil. So I go around and do that with every single plant. Took me about 2 hours this morning. That tells you how many plants I have. But I'm real excited for a very good tomato harvest this year. And I'm going to stand everything up, and then I'm going to wrap it with the tomato cages that I make. I don't use the store-bought ones because they're kind of flimsy, but I made some nice cages out of a roll of fencing wire that I got from Lowe's. So I'll share that with you, how I do that. So last year I took a roll of fencing wire that I purchased from Lowe's, and I measured it out into sections, and I cut it so I've got plenty of nice tomato cages to use again this year. And what I do is I wrap it around the tomato and I pull any limbs through the fencing, and then I'm going to hook it together, bending the wire so it is in one round piece. Hopefully you can see what I'm talking about when you look at the video. And then I just carefully pull the branches through the fencing, and this gives it support all the way up the tomato. So I'm just pulling the two pieces together, and I left some stakes on the bottom so that I can push this down into the dirt and it stays in place. Now there are times when we get a good wind and they'll blow over, so I try to secure those with tent stakes also to keep the wind from blowing them over. So you can see I'm just bending the wire to connect the two ends to make one round cylinder with this fence. And you can buy that in a big roll at Lowe's. I also use that same fencing for my string beans and rattlesnake pole beans. It works great. So I went around and did that with every tomato, and I had more tomatoes planted this year, so I've got to go get another roll of this great wire from Lowe's. You can see I'm pushing it down into the dirt so that it stays nice and snug. Now as the tomato grows up, I'm going to pull the branches, the taller it gets, through that wire, and the wire will give it stability and help the tomato grow upward. So I spent all morning working on getting all of the tomatoes caged. The ones that are in containers, I did get all of those caged, but I did not the ones that are still in the bed. So I'll be working on that also this week. And it was a beautiful day in the 80s. Perfect for working out in the garden. And my little backyard kitchen garden is doing wonderful. We had 2 really big cold snaps, but it didn't seem to affect my tomatoes. Everything got a good water this morning. After I put that fertilizer down, I just gave it a good drink. I like to use this nozzle on my hose. It doesn't have any feeder in it, but it just gives it a nice soft feed. So it just works better than the straight hose nozzle. So you can see my beautiful little backyard garden. I've got my tomatoes spread out, and we get a good full sun from 3 o'clock until the sun sets. So this part of the backyard will be in total sun in just a few hours. So thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone has a very blessed day. And stay tuned for more garden videos. I've got a good one coming up on how to dehydrate kale. I had a good supply of kale. So stay tuned to Mimi's Home and Garden. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing.